India won independence from Britain in 1947 and was divided into two separate states: India, with a Hindu majority, and Pakistan, with a Muslim majority. This partition brought about the largest mass migration in history, as some 10 million people were moved and 1 million people died in riots and fighting. The British government was in part responsible for the chaos that accompanied independence. In its haste to free itself of the burden of its responsibilities to the Indian subcontinent, it drew up new borders with little knowledge of Indian conditions. Communities and families were split in two, and fighting broke out during the mass migration. In January 1948, the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi by a Hindu fanatic opposed to Gandhi's non-violent stance encouraged the formation of a secular or non-religious government. A new constitution was ratified, and the first democratic elections were held in 1951. Though not without tensions between its different ethnic and religious communities, India has survived as the world's largest democracy, covering an area which is almost as big as Europe. In 1956, Egyptian President Nasser, backed by the Soviet Union, nationalised the Anglo-French-run Suez Canal. The Conservative British Prime Minister, Anthony Eden, looked for military action to bring about Nasser's downfall and restore British influence in the region, but was prevented by the US, which would not tolerate unjustified international military action. Britain and France were forced to withdraw their troops and left the canal in Egyptian hands. This showed that Britain could no longer act as the dominant world power it had once been. Eden resigned as Prime Minister and was substituted by Harold Macmillan, who was confirmed in the general election of 1959. In Palestine, the termination of the British Mandate, assigned by the League of Nations in 1919, and the withdrawal of British troops in 1948 resulted in the partition of the country. The independent State of Israel came into existence on the 14th of May 1948. But since then, the Middle East has become one of the tension spots of the world. The age of colonialism was inexorably coming to an end for Great Britain. Under Winston Churchill's guidance, Britain was a founder member of the Council of Europe in 1949, but it withdrew from the Treaty of Rome, which created the EEC, European Economic Community, in 1957. Two later British applications to join the EEC were vetoed by French President Charles de Gaulle. The first was in 1963 under Harold Macmillan, who resigned in consequence, and the second in 1967 during Harold Wilson's Labour government. The vetoes came as a shocking demonstration of Britain's declining international prestige. A third application under the Conservative government of Edward Heath, 1970–74, was finally accepted, and in 1973 Britain joined the EEC. However, Britain was never a fully convinced member of the European Union. It opted not to be part of the Schengen Agreement and in 2000 refused to accept the single currency, the euro. A referendum called Brexit was held on the 23rd of June 2016 to decide whether the UK should leave or remain in the European Union. Leave won by 52% to 48%. Britain's new Prime Minister, Theresa May, took over from David Cameron, who resigned after losing the referendum.